Chapter 7. A Dog Detective. When the children heard that Bobby Reed was missing, they rushed up to Officer Cal. Stopping his car, the policeman told them that Bobby had not been seen since the previous morning. Mrs. Bindle and the police had looked everywhere but could not find him. "Oh, poor Bobby," Pam cried out. "Do you think he had an accident?" "We hope not," the policeman replied. Pete thought Bobby had run away because Mr. Gillis treated him so badly, and said so. "That could be right, of course," Officer Cal nodded. "But I know Bobby pretty well, and I don't think he'd run away from trouble. He's a good sport." "Yes, he is," Pam agreed, "and he likes Mrs. Bindle." The policeman said he must leave now and continue his hunt for Bobby. "We'll hunt too," said Pete. Officer Cal thought this was a good idea, but wondered how the Hollisters could find the boy when the police had not been able to do so. "We'll use Zip," Ricky said. "He's only a collie, but I'll bet he's as good as a bloodhound." The policeman smiled. "Try it," he said, and drove off. Ricky gave a sharp whistle, and Zip bounded from around the side of the house. He stood before the children, ears cocked, as if awaiting orders. "You're going to be a detective dog," Holly said as she patted him. After telling their parents what they wanted to do, the 4 older children discussed how to start their hunt. "Let's go over to the farm first and give Zip the scent," Pete suggested. Mr. Hollister drove them there and went to the door with them to see if there was any recent news of Bobby. When they knocked, Mrs. Bindle appeared. Her eyes were red from crying, and they knew the boy was still missing. "We've come to help find Bobby," Pete said. "Mrs. Bindle, this is my father." "Good morning, Mr. Hollister," she said. "This is a dreadful state of affairs. Oh, how can I ever tell Mrs. Reed?" "Don't give up hope," the children's father advised. "Probably Bobby will be back long before his mother arrives." "Maybe our dog Zip can pick up the scent," Pam said. "Do you have some of Bobby's clothes that he can smell?" Mrs. Bindle said it was very kind of the Hollisters to help in the search. She went to Bobby's room and returned with one of his sweaters and a shoe. Pete took it. "Here, Zip," he said, "smell this." The dog seemed to know exactly what the children wanted. He sniffed at the sweater and the shoe. "Now find him, boy," Pete ordered. The dog put his nose to the ground and went back and forth outside the door of the house. "Hooray, he has the trail!" Ricky yelled, as Zip set off in a straight line. As Pete, Ricky, and Holly followed him, Pam lingered behind to ask Mrs. Bindle a question. "Did Bobby take any extra clothes with him?" she inquired. The housekeeper said no. He had taken nothing but a loaf of bread. "That's what makes me think he planned to go fishing, maybe," the woman said. "Oh, I hope he's all right." "I'm sure Bobby's perfectly safe," said Mr. Hollister, reassuringly. Then he left, as he had to keep a business appointment. "We'll let you know if we find any trace of Bobby," Pam said to Mrs. Bindle, and ran after her sister and brothers. Zip, meanwhile, kept sniffing the ground. After what Mrs. Bindle had said, Pam was surprised to see that the dog was heading straight to town and not the river. Finally, Zip arrived in front of the trading post and stood still, sniffing just below the window. "Bobby must have come here to look at the fish," Pete said. "He wanted to win the prize so badly," Holly remarked, "that maybe he went off to find a big fish." Suddenly, Zip started off again, with the 4 Hollisters following. He led them along a path toward the Muscogn River bank. When they came to a railroad crossing, Zip stopped to sniff around for a few seconds. "Maybe he stopped here hoping to get a ride on a train," Ricky surmised. But Holly thought Bobby would have more sense than to try to jump on even a slow-moving freight train. He might have sat down to rest a few minutes, or stopped to look up and down the tracks before he crossed. In a few moments, Zip continued his search along the track and ran along the trail toward the Muskong River, keeping his nose close to the ground. Finally, the faithful collie led them to the riverbank near the stone bridge. He went clear to the water's edge, then stopped. The dog sniffed some more, looking inquiringly at the children. It was evident that he had lost the scent at this point. "Oh dear," Holly said. "I hope Bobby didn't fall in and drown." "Don't think such things," Pam shuddered. Suddenly, Pete shouted, "Look, the old rowboat is gone, the one we tried to rescue." The children gazed at the spot where the battered old boat had rested in the mud. "If Bobby tried to go fishing in that," Pete said, worried, "I don't think he got far." Fearful that the boy might have taken the old boat down the river, the children searched the shore front for some distance. Not seeing it, they sat down, wondering what to do next. "We can't go out on the river alone," Pam sighed. "Who can take us? Dad, maybe?" "No, he's going out of town today, I heard him say," Pete spoke up. "Say, I know somebody if he'll do it." "Who?" "Bachelor Bill." Bachelor Bill was a broad-shouldered, good-natured man who spent most of his time outdoors. Once when Pete was pinch-hitting at the trading post for an hour, he'd sold the man a large canoe. His name was William Barlow, but everyone in town called him Bachelor Bill. "Let's find out if he'll take us," Pam said eagerly. The Hollisters hurried home. Pete quickly thumbed through the telephone book for the number and called Bill. Luckily, he was home. When the boy told him about Bobby and asked if he would help them search for him, Bachelor Bill said he would start at once. "But it can only take 2 of you," he added. "I'll meet you at the stone bridge in half an hour." It was decided by Mrs. Hollister that Pete and Pam would go with Bill. Saying goodbye, the children hurried back to the riverbank. Not long after they reached it, they saw Bill in his canoe. He drew up to the river's edge and held the canoe securely as the 2 children stepped in. "You paddle up front, Pete," Bill said. "I'll take the stern. And Pam, suppose you sit in the bottom of the canoe and be our lookout." Giving his paddle a good push against the shore, Bill sent the canoe skimming out over the river. They started downstream because Bill thought it was very unlikely that Bobby could have gone upstream in the old rowboat. It would have been almost impossible for a boy of his size to row against the current. After a few minutes, they passed a small launch, anchored near a bend in the river where the current was not so strong. 2 men in the boat were fishing. Pete called over to them. "Did you see a boy alone in a battered rowboat anywhere along the river?" "No," came the answer. "Have you been here long?" Bill asked them. "Since 5 this morning." "Then Bobby passed here before that," Bill told the children. "That is, if he came at all." Farther on, they passed a boat anchored near shore. A man in it was tinkering with his outboard motor. They asked him about Bobby. "No," came the reply. "I've been fussing with this cantankerous motor most all morning, and I'd have seen if the boy had passed me." They paddled on, beginning to feel discouraged. Whenever they saw a boat, they asked the occupants for news of Bobby. No one had seen him. After a while, they noticed a pretty sight ahead of them. Across the river stretched a line of toy sailboats. "They're having a race," Pete said. Pam had an idea. If Bobby had come this way recently, surely he would have stopped to watch the race. "Let's see if he's here. If not, we'll ask the contestants if they've seen Bobby Reed," she proposed. "All right," Bachelor Bill agreed. They paddled over to a group of boys standing on the left bank of the river. They were cheering and waving their arms as one boat then another took the lead in the race. Pam and Pete looked at the boys intently, hoping to see Bobby among them. He was not there. Careful not to disturb the small sailboats, Bill steered the canoe up to the place where the boys were standing. Pete and Pam stepped onto the shore and approached a young man who seemed to be in charge. "Have you seen a boy named Bobby who might have come past here in an old rowboat?" Pete asked him. The man had not noticed, but said he would ask the boys. He questioned each of them. Finally, a red-haired lad said, "There was a kid here about half an hour ago. I don't know who he was, never saw him before." Pam was excited. "Was he about 10 years old, and did he have brown eyes?" she asked. "I didn't see the color of his eyes," the boy replied, "but he was about my size." "That might have been the boy we're looking for," Pete said. "Where did he go?" "He watched the race a while and then went off in the woods that way." He pointed. The Hollisters told Bill what they had learned and said they would like to search for Bobby in the woods. "Will you wait here while we go look?" Pam asked the bachelor. "All right, but don't go far." Pete and Pam ran off in the direction the boy had indicated. As they went deeper among the trees and bushes, the children shouted, "Bobby! Bobby, where are you?" There was no reply. Presently they came to a small trail. Pam thought anyone going through this way would probably follow it. They hurried forward and continued their shouting. After they had gone some distance, Pete said, "Listen, I hear something." At first Pam thought it was merely an echo, as she shouted Bobby's name again. But finally a feeble reply came back. "Oh, do you suppose we found him?" she cried excitedly, dashing forward with her brother. "Bobby, are you there?" she called. "Here I am. What do you want?" Pete and Pam dashed into a small clearing, where a boy was picking berries. His back was to them. He turned around. "Does my mother want me?" he asked. Pete and Pam stared in surprise. This was not Bobby Reed, after all. "Is your name Bobby?" Pam asked. "That's right. But who are you? I don't think I know you," the boy said, putting down his basket of berries. "No, you don't," Pete said. "My sister and I are looking for another Bobby, a Bobby Reed. Have you seen him?" "No." Pete and Pam were discouraged. As they started back toward the riverbank, Pete said, "That was a wild goose chase." Reaching the canoe, they got in and reported their failure. "Too bad," said Bachelor Bill, "but we'll look in more places." They set off again, each of them thinking hard about where the missing boy might have gone. Finally, Bill remarked, "If Bobby did row the old boat, there is one person who might have seen him." "Who's that?" both children asked at once. "Hugh, the model maker." The Hollisters had heard about Hugh. He had a place on the riverbank where he carved model boats and sold them to visitors. He spent all day on the dock so he would see anyone who passed. Soon Hugh's dock loomed up ahead of them. Bill steered the canoe alongside it, and the model maker stood up to greet them. "Morning. Did you come to buy a model canoe?" Hugh asked. "No," Bachelor Bill answered. "We're looking for a lost boy. We think he set out on the river in an old beat-up rowboat." Said Hugh, and sat down again. Evidently he was disappointed at not making a sail. "Have you seen any little boy rowing down this way alone?" Pam asked him. The model maker scratched his head. "Why, yes, I think I did, come to think of it." The children were excited. "When?" they asked. Hugh went on. "I saw a boy go past here in an old boat yesterday noontime. The current was carrying him along, and he was bailing water out of the boat like fury. I don't see how the old tub stayed afloat." "Oh, it was Bobby. I just know it was Bobby," Pam said excitedly.